Hey, we're like a whole half a minute early. Do we give people a chance to connect? Do we
Well,
let
we're
them know we
live now,
snuck it?
so it's too late now. Gotta
It is
go.
too late. Hey guys. Hey guys. Welcome to the TOWTalk podcast live stream. I'm Denise. I'm here with Neil. What's going on, folks? It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. So, as always, we are here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. to do our live streams. We mostly deal with local and town stuff, and occasionally some national stuff too. But today we got a couple of news stories we're going to open up with, or at least one of them for sure. So, Neil, why don't you get us started? What's going on?
Yeah, town of Wallkill had a busy day today. Want to start off with there was a fire today that closed down Route 17. There was a fire out in Circleville. From early reports that I've seen, although there were some people evacuated, it doesn't seem like there were any serious injuries, thank God.
Hey guys, so during the live stream, Neil played a clip regarding the Circleville fire. It was a news story from Blaze Gomez, and it just came out horrible. It was choppy and hard to watch. So what follows is a better clip that gives you the whole story. Let me share my screen, and I'll play it for you.
A massive fire forcing evacuations and shutting down Route 17 in Orange County today after breaking out at a commercial site where large propane tanks are stored. Our Blaze Gomez takes us to the scene.
Viewer video capturing thick black smoke billowing into the air. But officials say the biggest concern was thousands of gallons of propane just feet away.
There was substantial concern about an explosion and the impact on the state highway.
That concern shut down Route 17 for about 90 minutes and backed up traffic for miles.
Traffic all the way from Wurtsboro.
Officials tell me 2 1,000-gallon propane tanks plus several smaller tanks were nearby, causing 6 people to be evacuated. The fire started around 10:30 Tuesday morning inside a garage on Bloomingburg Road in Circleville. Blue Flame Propane and New York Bus Sales both operate here. Folks nearby stopped by to check out what was happening.
I've never seen this much fire, rescues, all of that.
By afternoon, the fire was under control, and most importantly, officials say no one was hurt.
Excellent that nobody is hurt. Certainly we've got some property damage here, but I think that this is a great example of mutual aid coming together.
In Circleville, Orange County, Blaze Gomez, News 12.
Blaze, thank you. Now, authorities have not yet said which of the 2 businesses the fire started in or whether both were damaged. The cause is now under investigation.
All right. Now back to the rest of the video. So Neil.
Yeah.
What's going on? I thought Frank isn't available during the day. I thought he's like,
that's the thing that we get to all the time, right? The opponent for who's running for supervisor on the Republican side, again, spreading lies about the availability of the town supervisor, right? This idea that somehow he isn't available. And there he was on the scene of an emergency here in town, so, again, I really think that this is a foolhardy argument to play that and from a candidate that really is either trying to hide her true motives, right? Or she just can't do the job. She doesn't have the competency to do the job. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, here you have a supervisor that's been 100% competent. I mean, he's been able to get, a $4 million from the state, right? Because, the other side, the former administration bankrupted the town. So, I think that what we're seeing is right. I mean, we're seeing just more lies coming from the other side, and that's all this is. But getting to the second story, right? Because we'll get more. We're getting more right to the lies, right? We have the former auditor, right, for the New York State Comptroller's Office, Tobias Oching, was sentenced today, right, for stealing $405,000 from the town of Wallkill. He was sentenced to from 4 to 12 years in
Wait.
prison.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Because apparently, according to the other side, there was no robbery at all. This never happened. What are you talking about?
Right. Yep. Once again, you have the person running against, the current town supervisor, right? Candidate for supervisor, who is spreading lies and saying that no money was stolen from the town, right? Again, with the narrative of, it doesn't happen. I mean, we can go through the laundry list, right? Frank isn't available. He is. Okay, we see that all the time.
TV.
He was right on TV. He was there during an emergency. He's doing the spill the tea events, right? So right there is a lie, right? There's nothing wrong with the finances. The finances are great, but here the town has no bond rating. The town is bankrupted, right? I mean, like, think about it this way, right? The town,
And an auditor walked off with $405,000 in the middle of an investigation of our books.
And they say no money was stolen, and heroes' money was stolen. And remember, the theft took place between 2022 and 2024, right? So, right, like, you could ask, well, how does somebody steal money from you over a 2-year period? Because nobody was opening a bank statement, right? Nobody was reconciling the books. So, like, this idea, like you've been hearing one lie after another, right? They said for years, I'm not an accountant, right? Like, they were like, I'm not an accountant, that I could never be a comptroller for a town. And here I am. I'm a comptroller for a town, right?
Yes.
I'm now a certified or a credentialed municipal finance officer, right? So, like, again, another lie, right? All these guys know how to do is spread lies because they have no platform and they don't understand the job and they don't know how to do the job. Okay. And we've been hearing the same lie over and over and over again. And, and you had a great interview with the town supervisor the other day, right?
Yes, last week.
I understand that Frank's opponent, also posted a clip from that. You want to tell us a little bit about that and kind of what happened there?
Yeah, so she took about a 15 or 20 second clip from an hour and 40 minute interview. And in that, Frank was mentioning the fact that because this was a 1-year term, he was not prepared to give up his full-time career for what might amount to be a 1-year term. And, makes sense, right? And so she grabbed just on that. Now, there was a whole conversation before and afterwards leading up to that. And if people are interested, I can play it. But I think we're going to have Frank pop on to address that shortly. So we could that might be the easier way to do it. But there was a whole conversation before and a whole conversation after. But even the piece that she clipped, he talked about the term being 1 year. Like, would anybody give up their career for you know what I'm saying?
Here's the argument that really bothers me. Okay, here's the argument that really bothers me about the whole thing. Basically, the argument that she's making is that if you are a professional, right, or you are somebody younger, right, in your career, okay, right, that you cannot perform public service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, she's basically saying that well, if you have a career and a job, you can't be in public service. You can't serve your community. You can't serve your town. You can't be the supervisor of your town and help guide and direct your town, right? Because only retired people can do that job.
Because that's exactly what she said in the comments. Yeah,
Right.
because because she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm retired and I'm ready to commit all of my free time to this." And I sat there, and you got to think about the younger generation here. We see so many younger people coming out and running for office, and they've got jobs and they've got families. That's the reason why they're running, because you have all these old farts in government now that are writing policy that benefits them, but doesn't benefit the younger generations. That's the reason why these young people are coming out there. And so to come from that angle, it's really disingenuous, and it doesn't speak to the
Ageist.
younger gen.
No,
Yeah.
it's ageist. It's actually
ageist.
Right. It's actually discriminatory against younger generations, and basically telling younger generations to sit down, shut up, and let us lead the way. Right. Which is what we've been getting, right, from the old farts, right, all the way up. Right. I mean, we see this all the way up. Right. And that's not to say that she has nothing left to do, or she can't serve her community, right? But it's the argument she's making. Okay. It's not the argument I'm making. I don't care. If you have the ability to serve, you should be able to serve, right? She is making the argument, okay, that if you are of a younger age, you can't serve your community. Okay.
Yeah,
and I think
unless
that
you're willing
is
to give up your career.
unless you're willing to give up your career, your life, or whatever, right? Now, here's the interesting part, okay? She makes this statement, okay? I was there, okay? And you can ask himself, because he will tell you this story, because he does tell you this story. Former supervisor DenDanto, okay, who served as supervisor for this town and gave up his job so that he could be supervisor of this town, talked about how the fact that he couldn't get a mortgage on his home, okay, because of the fact that it was only a 2-year gig, right? It was not considered to be a career. It wasn't considered to be a job, okay, right?
There you go.
This is not just about, right, serving your community, right? This is a person's livelihood. It could be their home or whatever. And for anybody in this community to say that they should sacrifice everything, okay, right, to lead this community, that's the only way you could lead this community, I think that's a horrible, horrible statement to send to everybody here, especially the younger generations, right, who are doing everything they can to be involved in government. Right. And all they're being told at every level is, no, wait your turn. Wait your turn. This isn't your time. Right.
Yeah. Wait
Leave
till
it
you're
to us.
87.
We have more time on our hands because we had a full career. Let us govern. Right. And I'm sorry, that's just a really bad way. Okay. To go about it. Right.
Yes.
Agree
100%.
And I'm just really kind of sick of it. And then on top of which, right, this also got me, okay? She made the post, right, and did exactly what we were all upset about George doing. She limited the comments on her post.
Limited? She turned them off. She turned them off. I got a screenshot. I can show you.
Right. She turned the comments off, right? What kind of supervisor are you going to be, right, if you are turning comments off, right, on posts? This is exactly what George did when he was town supervisor, right? Like, we all were upset by the fact that there were posts and you couldn't comment as the public, right? In violation of the town policy that he created, which is hysterical. He created the policy and then violated his own policy. And now we have the same thing going on, right, with Jill, right?
Yes.
Is the fact that she cut off comments and she isn't allowing anybody to comment. And, again, here we go again.
Wrong
with
clip.
The lack of transparency, okay, lack of just whatever. Just enough's enough. That's all I got to say.
There it is, right there. Comments disabled. And I think what might have triggered that is I saw the post. I didn't comment on it. I just interacted. I put a laugh emoji. And sure enough, just for that, she turned the comments off. But here's the thing. She put out another one of these AI ads of hers where she listed as being responsive to the community. She's going to listen to residents, right? She had a little acronym. Jill for J for this, I for that, L for this, and L for listen to residents. Well, you know what? Listening means you're going to need to accept criticism and opposition and questions that might be uncomfortable. And if you're going to reach into our content and take information from us and post it, and, I come in and question you on that, or anybody who follows us might say, hey, and might have questions about why you chose that 15 seconds of an hour and a half interview to post that. Because before we were having a discussion at the end of that discussion, after he talked about that decision for the 1 year, he said, I get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and I work till like 11 o'clock at night. That's working 2 full-time jobs. So that's to sit here.
And that's the disingenuousness of her campaign, right? You see it with her signs, right? Veterans for her, this person for her, right? But no group has endorsed her. And here we go. We have Town Supervisor Frank DenDanto joining us tonight. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, that's good news. That's good news.
Actually, loud and clear, man.
Nice. The tech is working today. Gotta love it when it's working.
She is so Eric here says she is not listening. I mean, I don't even see her ads or posts. Shouldn't they be public where all can see them? So if you're looking, you literally have to follow her page. She has a Jill Wilkins for supervisor page, and then if you're following it, then you'll see those posts will come up. Yeah, they definitely follow TOWTalk, that's for sure. Because they come in and they pull stuff. But we were just talking about the clip that Jill's campaign smirched from our interview last week. I think
caught that on
Frank
TikTok.
Might be frozen.
No,
yes. They put it on TikTok too.
Yeah.
So 30 days. It was like 15 seconds, and no context. So I don't know about the TikTok. I don't follow her on TikTok. But she had turned the comments off. After, or maybe it was me, or maybe somebody else besides me went in there and engaged, and I just put a little laugh emoji on it. That's it. Next, comments off. So it wasn't even like she was limiting who could interact. She just said no interaction, which, it flies in the face of her message that she's going to be listening to residents. How are you listening to residents when you're shutting off people's ability to interact and question why you put that up there and why you didn't play through the rest of the conversation? Because just shortly after that, you mentioned how you get up at 4 a.m. and you're working nonstop till like 11 o'clock at night. So
I'm going to tell you, on the TikTok platform, she had a few comments. Actually, she had one gentleman who was commenting. She had a couple likes. But for the most part, it was a clip taken out of context, which I think was funny because it did sit in the middle of me sort of going on about how busy my schedule is and how ludicrous the notion of, this idea of a part-time supervisor, or that somehow I'm not spending enough time at town, or that I'm not accessible. It's, like I said, ludicrous. It just is laughable. And I will say that the only way, I invite anybody who wants to follow me around for a day. I'm happy to have them. We'll set that up. They can join me. We can do a thing where, they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning with me, and they can answer emails with me, and they can do the entire day, the whole day. So I'm happy to have that, have that shadow, because I think that if you just look at the pile of stuff that we've managed to get accomplished in the last 8 months, it's jaw-dropping. We've tackled some very large items. They're very complicated items, and we still have a lot to do in a short period of time, because who knows what happens in November. I'm hopeful that I'll be still around, but if I'm not still around, then there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be left undone. So it's I don't know what to say
Yeah.
other than they have no platform. Jill has no platform. So there's no way that they can make an argument against anything other than they don't like my clothes, or they don't like what time I get up, or, or they don't like what time I go to bed, or, they don't like whatever. Makes no difference. I could say left, they would say right. I could say up, they would say down. So, what I think that's really speaking to is I have nothing to say. And I mean, if you look at her platform card, she has nothing to say. So there you have it.
Yeah.
I think what.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I think what gets me about the whole thing is just everybody who pays attention can see the heavy lift that you're doing. And and I think it would be important to talk to people and tell people, that this stuff that you're working on wasn't easy. I mean, like I was on the board for 8 years, and I can tell you they kicked the can down the road a lot, right? Like, you're talking 8 years of kicking the can down the road, right? And now you're coming in and being asked to fix it in 1 year. And you have this group that, like, literally all they care about are the superficial stuff. Like, look at your clothes, or, look at the car, or look at the hours, right? I mean, all the superficial stuff, right? And this is stuff they didn't care about with the last 3 guys, right? On their side, they only care about with you. And that's the interesting part. And it's sort of like, I always get the impression that it looks like, look here, don't look over here, because this is how we're going to screw you. Right. And that's sort of like how I look at these things, because it feels that way to me, because I've watched it 8 years. I watched it. What are your thoughts on that?
Make no bones about it. Here's the thing I think that is probably most substantial in any of this is that Jill represents going backwards to the same group of folks that got us into this boat. Like that is it in a nutshell. Her whole coaching staff, her handlers, everyone around her immediate circle are exactly the individuals that did nothing but kick the can down the road, did nothing but turn their backs on the disaster that was unfolding that they knew about. I mean, I'm going to call a spade here, and Neil, cut me off if you think I'm out of line, but they knew what they were doing. There's not a question in my mind. They knew exactly what they were doing when they were doing it. Like, they had the opportunity to claim ignorance in 2001, and instead they doubled down. And these are the same people that are supporting Jill. So this is the messaging, is that, listen, town of Wallkill, you want the same people who put you in this financial place to get back into power? Go ahead and vote for Jill, because that's what you're going to get. You're going to get those folks. You want to stay on the course of cleaning things up, then stay with me. But yeah, this idea that they've got anything to stand on is laughable. And she's been radio silent, among other things. She's been radio silent on our ask about coming out and doing a debate. It's funny she could grab that video, but she didn't grab the section where I was like, hey, come out for a debate.
Yeah, which is I made it into a short. It's all over the place. It's gotten almost 1,000 views on Facebook alone.
Yeah.
Which is a lot for real.
I think, to confirm what you're saying, and I want people to understand this. So back in 2021, Supervisor DenDanto at the time got he engaged with our auditors, O'Connor Davies at the time, to do a risk assessment of the town. And they evaluated the internal controls of the town and found that there were glaring weaknesses in the controls. Weaknesses that led to the theft of the $400,000 by what we just showed you, the auditor from the state comptroller's office, right? I mean, let's keep that in mind. But at the point in time in November, right, at that point in time, I put a motion on the floor to accept those recommendations, to put in place a pathway to fix those problems, okay? And I was voted down 3-2, okay? Make no mistake, they intentionally went out of their way to ensure that the controls were not in place, right? and that the problems that were present were not fixed. I want to confirm that. I want to make sure that people understand that, because when Frank says what he says, he's being 100% accurate.
And you know what, Neil? Here's the thing that I'd say to both you and Denise, or anyone else for that matter. Who does that? Like, what's the motivation behind that? Why would you not want to find out where the money is, or close the bookkeeping, or do it the way that you're being told to do it? Like, what's the motivation behind that?
Ooh.
And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out at all.
Yeah.
At absolute best, you're being really shady. And absolute worst, well, Tobias went to jail today, so there's that.
Yes. We brought that up earlier in the stream. Sorry, and talked about that. And we just kind of joked around about the fact that Neil actually was telling me that the other side for a while there was saying that didn't even happen.
Yeah.
Well, they're still saying that, though. They're still saying that money wasn't stolen.
Well,
Like,
listen,
it's documented.
They're on about whether or not I'm saying the money is stolen. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Tobias stole the money. That much is certain. And he did it on their watch after they turned their back on everything that they were told they should be doing, including, by the way, in implementing the controls that Neil was very clear to point out prior to my arrival, but that we hit them in stereo on. So there's no question that they knew that those weaknesses existed. They were told that those weaknesses existed multiple times by multiple accounting firms, not just Connor Davies, but they were told that by RBT. They were told that by Nugent. They were told that by JG. They were told that by a number of individuals, that there were control weaknesses that are occurring. And again, anybody who's looking for corruption, this is corruption. This is corruption 101. So, here's what I'm going to say. At no point in time can you say with a straight face that if there's that much corruption, or that much opportunity for corruption, that there isn't going to be something that occurs. Listen, and again, Neil, correct me if I'm wrong. This is your world, but if the weakness exists, a corruption is assumed. Like, loss is assumed. So, if they get that information.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
what I was going to say is,
get that information.
Right. And Frank is absolutely right, because what was happening, if all you need to do is look at that report that O'Connor Davies did, right? It detailed out how the town was losing money. Like, it wasn't even like they clearly stated we were losing money. Like, they said, you are losing money. You are paying fines, fees, penalties, you name it, right? Because you can't pay your bills on time, because you don't even know you have bills outstanding. You accumulated interest. Like, we had an IRS charge, right, that we needed to get paid. Okay. That was over $1,000.
Wow.
That we were struggling to get paid because the town comptroller at the time didn't want to pay the bill. Right. And when the IRS charges you money, Frank can confirm this, right? They charge you interest and penalties daily. It's not like it's annually, it's daily.
Wow. Interesting. It's
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't want a forensic audit done. And a good question is, why not? Why? You're responsible for the town. And I understand from maybe a lot of people that are residents that this doesn't really matter as long as you still have, the town is still going. What does this all mean? What it means is that your tax dollars weren't going to taking care of the things in your community that you needed. So, for example, we were, for the last couple of years before Frank came back into office, we were getting notices that the water wasn't completely meeting up to spec as far as safety goes. So they were failing water exams. Your roads are crappier than they were before because they didn't have the money to put the roads back together or to maintain them. That's what your tax dollars pay for, keeping things that you wouldn't consciously think about going forward. So your water's running, your sewers are clean, your roads look good, that all those things are. And so are done in the background with your tax dollars. And now we're sort of strapped because of how they left the town, because they bled the town dry of all of all your tax dollars, bottom line. Am I right here?
Yeah, that's 100% real. The idea of deferred maintenance is paramount at the town of Wallkill. Well, the town has done what I would think is a fairly decent job at trying to stay in front of the curve, given the fact that they've been capped at the knees in the resources, where their budget lines were parceled out, penny after penny after penny, after begging for that money, which in the real world of municipal funding, once that line is passed, once the budget is passed, you get it past the first of the year, that line is refunded. So the idea that somehow there shouldn't be money in a line that has been authorized by the town board when they pass the budget is, again, gobsmacking. I guess I just can't understand why somebody would do that, except that if I hold on to the $10 and we all agree you're going to get the $10, but then I do something shady like say, yeah, I'm only going to pay you the $8, and then we hold on to the $2 and we put the $2 in our pocket, like all of that just smells like corruption, right? I mean, not to get national on this, but I think we know a little something at this point about how our national leadership feels about, paying their bills and how they don't pay their bills. And that's part of the strategy, right? Is that, well, I'll agree to the bill at $500, but I'm only going to give you $400. And I just feel like that's what the town of Wallkill was doing as well.
So that was actually documented again in the O'Connor Davies report, right? And that was something I talked about a lot, actually, when Frank was in office the first time around, was the idea that we weren't paying our bills, and we lost a lot of, like, we used to have store credit at a lot of the stores around town, right? Like Lowe's and Tractor Supply and stuff like that. We used to have store credit, right? We lost our store credit because we weren't paying the bills, which is why we ended up having to put everything on an Orange County Orange Bank and Trust now, or whatever Orange Bank they call themselves, right? We had to put it on their credit card. Okay. But then we weren't paying our credit card bills. So we were just accumulating interest and penalties on the orange credit card bill. Like the amount of, and whatever you say this is, I personally think it's corruption, but whatever you want to say it is, right? It really comes down to it's bad management, right? Like it's really freaking bad management. Okay. Because they don't care about the day to day. And one thing I've seen a lot recently is this idea that Republicans go out of their way, okay, to make government not work, okay, to say, don't rely on us. We can't do anything anyway, right? So in other words, your roads don't get paved. This stuff doesn't happen. Well, we're government. We don't have the money, yada, yada, yada. You don't want to be taxed more, right? And they play this game. But all it does is your investment is your home. Your investment is your community. So they're literally destroying your personal investments, right? So that their narrative that government is bad can hold true. And that's what George did. He just threw parties. He didn't pave the roads, right? I mean, you can see, we had a guy come in last year. He said that our road rating was about a C. Okay. We pay a lot of taxes here. And our road rating was a C.
That's the beauty of it. It's like, you don't have to take our word for it. We get outside consultants that say these things. It's not, this is the other thing that gets tossed at me, which I find laughable, is that they come up with these numbers. Oh, Frank says, there's $40 million, $30 million missing, whatever the number is today. It seems to change daily. And, but the notion is that that's not my information. I didn't come up with that number. That's the New York State Comptroller's number. I didn't come up with the number that's missing in terms of our budgeting. That's the town comptroller. She was the one who came to me and said, we can't make payroll in January. I hadn't been there 2 days. So this idea, how right now, the New York State Comptroller's just wrapped up. I got an initial walkthrough on some of the findings. Again, it's still laughable that these numbers somehow are my numbers. They're not my numbers. They're the New York State Comptroller's numbers. They're other auditors' numbers. They're the town's numbers. And the maths. So this notion that somehow they knew what they were doing when they were running the town is, again, ridiculous. The fact that they didn't know what they were doing when they were blocking a forensic audit or blocking the operations of the accounting department. Again, they throw, the staffing issue. Dude, we tried to staff that accounting department right out of the gate. It became really problematic. We're staffing it right now. It's got more people in it than it's had ever. And we continue. We're hiring 2 more people right now. We had interviews today. I've got recommendations for next week to add additional bodies into the accounting department so that we can try to, close up this gap. But the reality is that none of these things happen quickly because they've taken 10 years to screw up. And a lot of time has gone by and there's a lot of work to be done. So it doesn't get done overnight. And, it can certainly go backwards immediately just if you don't know what you're doing. But here's the thing about my opponent. She's circled herself with every single person who has had their hand in the cookie jar. Every single one.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I can tell you that what Frank is saying, since I lived it, right? Like I lived it, I went to the town of Chester. They were about 2 years behind in their audits and all that kind of stuff. Same thing, about a year behind in their bank reconciliations. Same thing, right? It is a heavy lift because not only do you have to go backwards now to fix everything, you have to keep everything running forward. Okay, because if you're not doing everything simultaneously, what ends up happening is you will never catch up. You will consistently end up behind. And that means that when you have to pick a point to say, now we're going to do everything right moving forward. Okay. So that way, when you get to that point, everything is already done. Okay. That's the lift that Frank had to take on when he started. And, I give him a lot of credit. He's been moving really, really quick. So thank you very much, Frank. Great job.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I feel like that this, again, we come back to these narratives that these guys are throwing out into the ether, in an effort to see what sticks to the wall. This afternoon, I'm sure you heard on the news, we had a very large fire here in the town of Wallkill. It was a little scary to say the least. There was an opportunity here where we might have had a rather large explosion that would going to directly impact 1786. So the state police and the DOT shut down 17 eastbound for a little while. So until we got that situation under control. And I'll tell you what, I was on site inside of 10 minutes, jumped in the car, turned on the lights and sirens, was there in 10 minutes. To be able to see what I believe to be some of the finest parts of the town of Wallkill in terms of its emergency response and its coordination efforts with the county and the state to get around this, really dangerous situation that was going to impact everybody, impact the county, impact the state, impact the town, with this possible, fuel tank, propane fuel tank that was directly on, in the fire. So, it was scary. I'm not going to lie. It's not less than a quarter mile down the road from my house. So, and we're talking about the possible area of impact of up to a mile if there was a catastrophic event. So, or better. So, these are things where I think that the town has done a lot in terms of managing its level of professionality, but where it has been stymied is where the previous administration managed to climb in and get their hands on stuff, or worse still, ignore stuff so that it ran dry or that it ran out. Like I was at DPW back on Tuesday and was talking to the guys in the morning, and the biggest gripe out there is all the machinery is really beat up, and it's like being held together, piecemeal, because it gets used a lot, and it gets used it gets used in a very complicated and directly effective way, but because it gets used so frequently, it requires maintenance. Well, wouldn't you know, the town has been deferring maintenance on these pieces of machinery to the point where the philosophy is we just drive it into the ground and then we'll buy a new one, which is, again, I don't know where someone would think that that's an okay way to work, but that's what they were doing, because instead of spending, $150 on a maintenance cycle or, $1,500 on a maintenance cycle, they would only want to spend $150 on the maintenance cycle. And then consequently, in 2 years' time, you're spending, $30,000 on a brand new machine. And that's
that goes into
that was the philosophy.
minutia management.
That was the philosophy.
Right. But that's what, I've tried to get, that's what I've tried to get across to people. I'm glad that you talked about that. And, Denise has tried to get across to people is that these are real jobs. These are management jobs. You are managing a business. Okay. And it may not be a for-profit business, but there are, you want to control spending. We always talk about, government, they waste money and they don't know how to spend it properly. But here we had a situation where the people who tell us that they're great at management, right, clearly had no idea what was going on a daily basis. They had no idea about getting cost controls. They had no idea they were what is it? A day late and a dollar short, right? Like they just didn't spend the money on what they should have been spending the money on. Okay. And at the end of the day, who pays the price? The taxpayer. But they didn't care because they were throwing parties for themselves. And that's all that mattered to them. And you have to ask yourself, right? What skills is your opponent bringing to the table, right? Like here, you were talking about, the fact that just the sheer maintenance schedule of vehicles, right? And making sure that we keep them in good condition so that they have longevity and that it doesn't cost the taxpayers $150,000 every 2 years, right? For a truck that maybe should last 10 or 15 years. Okay. And go and like, what is she going to do? Like, does she know that? Is she going to get involved in that? No, because all she's going on the idea of, I'm just going to throw parties for everybody.
Or she's just going to be there. Whatever that means.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like, how effective are you? Just because you sit in the chair, I'm going to tell you right now, one of the stories that is used frequently about the past administration is about the level of alligator clip snakes that were made in the course of a day, as witnessed by the staff at the town of Wallkill in the former supervisor's office. So, sitting in the chair and being ineffective is, I think, worse on many levels than, being out into the town, in the community, being active, knowing your job. And as Neil said, this is a business. It's a non-for-profit business, which is a business. It does require us to have certain fiduciary understandings. What does that mean? It means that we have to spend our budget, that not the entire budget, but we have to be mindful to bring more to the community and not photo ops to the community, actual things to the community, actual items that are going to make the quality of life at the town of Wallkill better. What does that mean? It means more jobs in the community. It means walkability in the community. It means accessibility in this community. It means affordable housing in this community. I don't know what my opponent has to offer there. I have executive leadership background. That's what I bring to the table. I can manage groups of people 500 or better. That's what I've got a history in. I know how to manage budgets that are multi-million-dollar budgets. That's what I bring to the table. And I actually know how to fix a thing. And it's really what I do, fix a thing when it goes sideways. So I don't know that she knows any of that. Here's what I do know. I do know that she was hopeful that George was going to be able to give her the community center for a food pantry situation. So perhaps maybe there's something there that she feels like she can follow through on. At the end of the day, here's what I know. And while that is all fine and good, that is not really the cornerstone of the town. You've got to be globally thinking. You've got to be able to maneuver inside the economic environment that is the county. You got to be able to speak to the economic environment that is in the town and the county and the state. You got to be able to have the contacts to reach up into the state. I mean, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I leveraged every component I had to be able to speak directly to Letitia and Tom DiNapoli and all of the players in Albany. It was those connections and the connections that I got through my contacts with James Scoofus and with Paula Kay. Those were the contacts that allowed us to be able to make a cogent ask and not just, hey, by the way, we need some cash, but here's why. Like, that's the other thing that I think is really important that nobody wants to acknowledge on the other side. You got to be able to say why. You got to be able to do the math.
Yes.
Okay, Frank. So I got to ask this question since it's been brought up. Okay, and don't shoot the messenger because I'm not the one asking this question. But everybody apparently there's a small contingent out in the universe here, right, that believes that somehow you hoodwinked, right, the governor, the Senate, the Assembly, right, like all these state officials to get that money. What do you say about that?
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Again, the level,
it's laughable.
The level of ridiculous is like off the chart. It's like at 11. I don't even know what to say about that other than it's so absurd. First of all, if I had even the remote ability to be that smooth, I'm pretty sure I'd probably be far better off than I am right now. That's not a thing that is even in my nature to understand. I have to bring up and Neil will appreciate this. Denise, we probably remember this. In my first term, I used to ride my motorcycle to work quite a bit, and I had these boots, these jump boots that I used to wear. Old school Frank, old theater school Frank, his look, if you will. I had combat boots on all the time. I used to wear them in the painting studio. And then, and then when I got the motorcycle, I was like, oh, I'm just going to have nice high combat boots with steel toes. It's going to be great. And so I'd ride the bike to work and I ran into a constituent who is a rather prominent constituent in our community. And his recollection of me, believe it or not, was the combat boots. Like that was his takeaway.
That was what he remembered.
Yes, that's the takeaway. And so I'm like, well, I am what I am. Like there's no faking me. And this is the one thing I can say wholeheartedly, and probably props to my parents on this one, and much to their chagrin for a number of years, I knew who I was right out of the gate. And there was no pretending for me. That's why I say when I talk to people, I'm not your normal politician. I don't consider myself a politician. I'm a guy who's trying to fix a thing that's broken. I'm like a mechanic. And so, so I am what I am. I sometimes ride a motorcycle and I sometimes wear motorcycle boots, and that happens. And you might catch me in the office and I might have motorcycle boots on. And, that doesn't say anything about my integrity or whether or not I can do the math or, that's just who I am. So what you see is what you get. And I don't think that I present myself as a razzmatazz kind of guy. Like that's not like a shell guy here.
So let me just say, right, because Frank brings up a funny story, and I absolutely 100% remember the combat boots because there wasn't a day that went by that a constituent didn't walk up to me, right, or a resident didn't walk up to me and say, why does he have to wear the combat boots? There wasn't a day. I even think that there was a day, right at the beginning of Frank's term, right, where I actually had to pull him aside, right, where I pulled him aside and I said, dude, seriously, please, can we
the combat boots
retire the boots? right?
It's all
And
one.
that's
It's all one
exactly
look.
what he said to me.
It's
That's
all
what
one
he
look.
said to me.
I
And
will say
after
that
it-
I did capitulate slightly, Neil, and I will tell you that you had help. There was a stereo version here. My former assistant, Lisa Dysard, in tandem with Michelle Baker, the commissioner. And I really I'm gonna throw Michelle Baker under the bus on this. I hope she watches this. So anybody who knows Michelle, tell her I'm shouting out to her. I think she's on vacation now, but Michelle very clearly said to me on like November 7th of this past year of 2025, she's like, I'm so excited to have you come back. It's going to be a breath of fresh air. Please leave the combat boots behind.
Nice.
every day, people would call me, right? Like, I mean, you think people, like, as a councilman, people call you about like potholes and stuff. People were calling me about the combat boots. It was like I was like, I am not his keeper. I am not his handler. Like, what do you want?
Listen,
from
all
me
I kept
on this
but what I
one?
kept saying to the folks that would comment to me is that, look, I'm in the trenches. Like, this is quite literally a battle. I'm trying to save the town here. And, I've used that analogy in the past couple of months too. I've had individuals from the other side who have, been aggressive in their criticisms right out of the gate. And I said to them very pointedly, hey, look, I'm literally attempting to do CPR. We are in a triage situation. Either you can come and give breaths and help crack ribs, which is, a metaphor for doing CPR on our town, or you can back up, because the reality here is that we're trying to save the town, and it is literally a triage situation. So, this idea that these are the things that we're going to double down on is laughable and concerning, that this is something that, they feel like is a firm enough ground to stand on. I'm going to tell you, I really don't think that the town sees that kind of platform approach as a viable platform approach. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the candidate and I hope to win, but I'm saying that because I think people aren't stupid. And I think that they can see the forest for the trees, and they can see, even with the skepticism that Neil pointed out earlier, and which is, by the way, a Ronald Reagan installation, this idea that government is bad and that government, is just going to do it the wrong way. It is a little bit more expensive when government does things because it's bureaucratic, and there are a lot of different things that municipalities have to do that other businesses don't have to do in terms of transparency and accountability. That lift does cost money. But the reality is if you're operating your municipality in a way that's fiscally responsible, you don't end up with such big bills, and you do end up with allowing your departments to do the things that they're supposed to do, that they have been funded to do. And you trust your department heads to be able to do that in a reasonable way. And you're left to coming up with, 50,000-foot strategies to grow the town smart and economically smart and environmentally smart and community driven, so that we can think about things like walkability or reducing car traffic on 211, or how to, guard our watersheds or our green spaces.
No, I think Frank, kind of hit some really good points right there. I think people, right, they think that government costs a lot of money, right? Because we look at the federal government and we see how much the federal government does. And then you sort of look at your local municipality, and what you're looking at is the money coming out of your pocket via property taxes. Okay. And there's more money coming out of your pocket every year. But I think what people don't understand is if your local government is doing it right. Now, granted, expenses are going up at 5%, revenues are going up at 1%. There's a gap there, right? Who pays for that gap? But when you look at those expenses going up at 5% a year, okay, or 3 to 5% a year, which is kind of what you're seeing, okay, look at what your CPI is. Your CPI right now is 7, 8, 9%. Okay. Your local government, if they're operating appropriately and they're doing things the right way, okay, it's not going to cost more. It's going to cost less because they're going to get to do things in-house. They're not going to be paying, outside companies. And every time you pay an outside contractor or something like that, they're putting in a profit. So you are not saving money when you go outside. When I was with the town of Wallkill, we did a lot of things in-house, and you could see that when we did things in-house, it was cheaper to do it in-house than going outside. And that was a credit to the guys in our highway department, right, and our water and sewer, right, who absolutely are amazing and have the ability to do those things and save the taxpayers money. But people don't see that. But it takes good leadership at the top to make sure that they have the resources, the equipment, everything else, and that it's in good condition, okay, to do those jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what your government is. Your government isn't your neighbor just because you like them. All right. And I think Frank bringing up those points is really, really good, because I think it's important to get that out to the public.
Yes. Yes. And speaking of the public, we've been getting a number of comments, particularly from TOWSW 1011, who's joking around. I posted this before. Wait, is Frank giving the town employees the ability to be responsible and do their jobs? Apparently, there were some issues before then.
Yeah, I think that's real.
I guess micromanaging.
Yeah, that's real. I will tell you that my experience being back at the town is that the town employees are excited to have the ability to be able to manage their budgets in a real way, be able to execute on their job tasks without being micromanaged by town board members or by an inactive or ineffectual supervisor. Were the terms that I have been facing, in having conversations about how to move forward as a team. And I feel confident to say that the town employees are at least happy that they have that bandwidth back so that they can execute on the things that they're supposed to be doing without that kind of meddling. That said, rest assured, and make no bones about it, I am all about making sure the professionals are at the table. So I've said this a lot about how I like to work with the rock stars. Part of the reason why I got in the theater business was because I wanted to be close to cool people. Again, I didn't think I was a cool person. So I didn't, that was me, just trying to do my own thing. But I really grew to understand that rock stars are not made, they're born, and you can find them and they exist and they come to the table with that level of professionality that is not something you can fake. So, and the town is filled with a number of rock stars. There's no question about that. But, we could be doing a little bit better. I think if we're over this hump with, penny pinching and getting beyond the hurdle of being financially upside down. But that's going to take some time, and we've got to be smart about how we do that.
Yes. And just to follow up, TOWSW brought something else up here. No more spying cameras. Was that a thing in the prior with Serrano?
Yeah, it definitely was. So, the town did away with the camera system now. It's still in the building, but it's now routed to security. So, but the supervisor's office actually had the feed, and Serrano could just sit in his office and watch what other people were doing around the office. That's a real thing that occurred.
Wait. That's illegal.
Yeah,
you
that's like
not spy on your employees at their desks.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is what I can say is that when I showed up on site, the camera system, I'm going to tell you that's so we shut that down. That's no longer a thing.
Thank God.
And
that's a lawsuit.
It's one thing.
I understand.
Yeah, that's exposure right there. That's the reason why I posted it.
Well, I mean, I think
Yeah.
again, this goes back to the idea that the town supervisor, the former town supervisor, and the former town board members believed that the town was not accountable to anybody, that they could kind of do whatever they wanted to do. And in some respects, that isn't entirely off base, because unless someone blows a whistle or makes a point to draw the attention of the public to these issues, it just continues to go on. So it was good that there was now someone, me, who walked in and said, no, we don't do that. And no, I'm not micromanaging your time. No, you're all adults here, and I expect you to behave in a professional way. So, and again, all of that seemed to have been welcomed. So I'm excited to have been the spear point on that for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's important because, you can have security cameras in public areas, like down hallways and stuff, but you're pointing cameras at people's desks. Now you're invading their privacy,
Yeah.
Or worse
That's
yet, if there's
that's
cameras on the computers and you're turning them on and looking at your employees' faces, or you're listening in on phone conversations. Yeah, that's a problem. I remember there when I was working in the city, I was working for a law firm. They got these new phones in that had the ability for managers to tap in and listen to your phone conversations without you knowing. Now, it's one thing that this does happen, but the person has to say, and the people that are on the other end of the phone have to know that there's a chance they could be recorded, so they can have the choice whether they want to continue the conversation or not. In this case, we all blew up. We all got pissed and said, I'm sorry, you have the ability to just listen in to our conversations. What if we have an emergency come up that's very personal and you choose to just tap into that? So, yeah.
Yeah, well, just to be clear, that's a horrible situation. But to be clear, that did not exist at the town. We cannot listen into phone calls, and we cannot turn on cameras on people's laptops or desktops. That's not a tech that the town has. And Neil can attest to this too. There's not that kind of tech at the town. We're using some seriously old tech at the town, like most governments. Our computers are all circa 2016. So, with a very rare few, but yeah, the reality for us is that, again, if you are managing the town like it's your own fiefdom, then you don't think about those things, and you don't have to think about those things because you don't care, because nobody's going to hold you accountable until someone blows the whistle. So, and like I said, happy to come in and turn that off and say, yeah, we're not doing that. So.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another important. And obviously, it seems that a lot of people agree with that. We're seeing the comments come in here.
I mean, what you're, like, this is the type of people, right, that they are, right? So this idea, we've been having this conversation about, right, security, flock cameras, right? People tracking you from the moment you leave your house, and now you have, right now we're talking about, right, monitoring you during the day, right? Like monitoring your workstation, monitor, right? Like, so it seems like it doesn't end. And I'm really glad to hear, the supervisor of my town, the town that I live in, right, that we're not going to go there, right? But we can see that the other side does want to go there. Right.
Yeah.
So it's
The don't tread on me crown really loves to be tread upon.
Right.
Well, it's don't tread on me, I can tread on you. That's the idea there, is that, they stand outside the judgment.
Yeah, but the funny part is that they're treading on their own communities as well. I mean, flock cameras are everywhere, and there seems to be a lot more pushback in blue states. So, but because red states they're all in on it. They're rolling it out more effectively or more than they are here, because here we're given pushback, just like the story we talked about in Newburgh.
Newburgh.
Yeah, I think I think what you're going to see with that is a conversation specifically to the state of New York, where people's personal rights are really going to take precedence, and you're going to see some litigation that's going to happen around those things. But the idea that somehow tech isn't going to continue to infringe on our personal rights is, I think, a thing that we have to contend with. It's just, it's going to happen. We're seeing it now with AI development in terms of giving up what I believe to be our intellectual skill set over to AI or generative AI in an effort, because it's a dog and pony trick that's fun for right now. But what I think it does is it takes away our ability to think critically. And you know, I watched somebody the other day who should have had, in my opinion, given their professional skill set, and this is outside of the town, so you know, just want to identify that this was not a town situation, but that should have had the skill set to know who, and now I'm going to date myself, who was in their Rolodex and where to go looking for material. And instead they relied on AI to give them that list. And it turned out that some people on that list were people that they had already done business with. And for me, I would think that you should already vet that list. Like, you should know who those people are, and you should continue to work those relationships. And so you run the risk of atrophying those actions and that intellect, I think, to know where to go look for a question. I don't want to negate the exercise of using AI, because I do think that in some respects it's a tool like every other tool, and it has to be managed. But I use this reference a lot too. And I think, Denise, in our last one, I said, you know, everything that I see and do comes to me as a tool, and it, like everything else, you got to keep it sharp. So, you know, a dull tool will hurt you if you're not paying attention. A sharp tool that's used properly can be very helpful. And so I think that that's what we have to approach the world with, specifically with AI in that respect. So, but I'm concerned that we're going to start seeing AI, you know, write our resolutions, or AI come up with where our legal standing is going to be, because I'm now empowered because I went to Google or Chat GPT or Claude and, you know, asked it a few pointed questions. And now I think I know where the line is between the road and my property and my neighbor's property. So I'm going to go pick a fight. And so I think that that's a thing that is really, you know, it's a little bit dangerous, because we feel like we're empowered. And so we're going to get into positions that aren't necessarily on legal solid ground. So I want to just preface by saying, I think that we have to be very careful with AI.
Agreed 100%.
But I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Hey, yeah. I love using that phrase. That's one of my favorite phrases. I'm not a lawyer, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. And I think that
I've heard you say it enough times, Frank. Yeah. I had to steal it.
It's true. I love that one. I love that one. I'm notorious for the quotes.
Let me ask you, we've got a few people here. Does anybody have any questions that you want to ask Frank? You know, you got him here. You have a unique one-on-one, more or less, opportunity to ask Frank whatever might be on your mind. Let's see, Claude, AI, water equals drought. Yes, 100% with that.
All I'm going to say is I'm with Frank. You know, check your AI. There are so many times that people send me emails that were generated out of AI, or they send me things generated out of AI, and it's just wrong. Like, I just look at it and I as a business person, right? Like, I find when I get stuff like that, I find the people on the other side to be unserious, right? Like, if you can't proofread your own work, or you can't go through the process, right? Like, I've said it, Frank has probably heard me say it a million times. Details matter, right? Like, details matter.
It's so true. And even, you know, I'm going to tell you right now, in knowing myself, I'm going to tell you right now, openly to the world, I am what would be commonly referred to as a big picture thinker. I can vacillate between 50,000 feet and 10,000 feet, but for the most part, I stay somewhere between 35 and 50. And I will tell you right now, the number one most important person in my circle is the details person. I absolutely have to have, in every one of my employee circles, I have at least one, maybe more than one, of those people who really like to dive in and get into the weeds. Those people are absolutely essential, but you can't rely on them to understand the arc of the big picture because they will get lost. Sometimes they can't get up beyond 20,000 feet. So you've got to really be able to go from 50,000 feet to 20,000 feet to 10,000 feet, and you got to be able to do it quick. So, and that's the other thing that I'm not sure that my opponent has that skill set. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I use that skill set every single day today, from, getting things squared away at the shop to having a conversation about a contract this morning at the water and sewer to, having a discussion with county OEM at the fire. So, this is, and, how to manage Battalion 1 and 3 or 4 other visiting companies, 2 of which were from Sullivan County. So, you've got to come up and you got to get down and you got to come up and then you got to listen to what the fire guy is coming out and telling you about how hot it is inside and whether or not that means that you've got to have a bigger discussion with the state folks or the county folks in terms of resources or, what the danger level is. And are we closing 17? Are we not closing 17? Should we close it for a little bit? Like, though, you got to be able to vacillate, and you got to be able to have those detailed people around you, and you got to know where your strengths lie. Like, that's the other thing. You got to know where your strengths lie.
Yeah, and I think that's go ahead.
What I'm going to say is we have talked about that on the show a number of times. When that was a thing at Goldman Sachs, right? It was, they would have you do a project, me being a details guy, right? I would look at the project and I would say, well, I already know my result. Why am I going to do this project? It's going to be a waste of my time, right? And them being the big picture people that they were, right, would always say, you go through the motions of doing the project because it's not about where you end up. It's about all the things you learn along the way. Right?
Yes,
absolutely.
100%. 100%.
Right. The reason why I think Frank and I made a good team in his first term, right, when he was there, was the fact that I was the details guy, he was the picture guy, and we kept each other in balance.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of keeping each other in balance.
I agree, Neil.
Because there were a number of times where me and Frank would fight it out. There would be times, right, we would fight it out because I was thinking, right, like, okay, how we, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? And he was like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We got this, right? Like, he saw the big picture. He could do the big picture, right? And then we would get there. I'm glad that hear him say he has people in his circle that are doing the details, right? He's able to manage them. He looks at the big picture. He's learning things along the way. This is exactly what you want from a supervisor. Right? This is exactly what you want. This shows you that he's adapting as he goes, right? He's learning things. He's making things better. He's improving on the process, right? All great things to hear. Fantastic.
So I've got a little breaking news here. TOW is saying, oops, let me get this. When can we expect a debate? Jill claims she will debate now.
That's great news.
Did she reach out to you?
No, I haven't gotten anybody to reach out to me.
I don't know
where
she also has
he.
All right, so we'll I'll look for that. And here we have another question.
We'll get that information, and we'll if we can get something set up, we'll do it.
From Tau SW is asking, what draws you to public office? What do you want to accomplish in the next term?
What draws me to public office is, again, that need to sort of fix a thing. So, Town of Wallkill's obviously got some hurdles that need to be navigated. I think that I have the skill set to be able to do that, and I'm interested to be in the process of doing that as we move forward. That means that for next year, the lift is going to be much the way it is this year, hopefully with a few caveats that we will be in a little bit better financial place. We'll be able to rebuild our credit rating and get our bond rating back. I expect that to be a high priority for the next year, for 27. We're going to carry forward these economic growth ideas that we've been talking about here, this idea of developing the fairgrounds to be a campus-style multi-use area, and
I like that
to
idea.
rethink rethink the corridor around Galleria, and continue to work with the Galleria folks to rethink what it looks like to be in that area of the neighborhood for the town. And we know we're very interested in bringing some ideas that the state and county have in terms of transit-oriented housing, workforce housing. These are things that are going to speak to us. Again, one of the things that I know is happening next year, and we want to be proactive in that, is that the Walmart folks are going to be proceeding forward on their project over on 17K. And we want to think about what development looks like along 17K. We want to be out in front of that discussion before Walmart gets us to a place where we're playing catch up. So we're going to be forward thinking about that. And Walmart's talking about bringing 1,000 jobs to the town. So we want to be thinking about what that means for housing. So that dovetails into this discussion about workforce housing and transit-oriented housing. And in, not lastly, because there's a laundry list of things, but probably one of the other high ticket items is that I really want to be proactive with the county on mass transit. I think that the county is interested in having a conversation that's going to expand Dial-A-Bus, perhaps having a better, more robust metro system that probably will revolve around busing. But also, let's not be forgetful of the fact that MTA is looking very much at the Jersey Transit Corridor, the Otisville Corridor, and the replacement of the trestle at Campbell Hall. And, we want to make sure that the town of Wallkill speaks to the MTA and Port Authority in a way that helps them understand that it is valuable for them to make that infrastructure investment. And we want to work with the county, I think, closely to continue to make sure that the state of New York understands that the economic development in the town of Wallkill, and specifically in the town of Wallkill, but Orange County in a greater sense, is really important. And so they should be dumping resources here in the county as well. So those are the things that I think I'd like to focus on. And I think all of those things absolutely have a direct impact on our residents. And I want to make sure that our residents have those opportunities. I don't see that with my opponent. I don't think that they have those contacts. I'm going to tell you very clearly that the messaging coming out of the economic circles at the county level and at the state level was that the town of Wallkill was closed. They were excited that I was coming back to the table. And this, I'm just going to say, and Neil, I would love to get your take on this one. The county is a Republican county. There's no question about the fact that there's a Republican administration at the county level, and that the economic engine is really managed by, for the lack of a better term, a Republican backbone. And I will tell you, it is telling that those individuals in that circle look to a Democrat as a good partner. And I think that speaks volumes to how we can, cross-pollinate and cross-aisle conversation this idea of economic development. This is the kind of growth and development that the county and the town, specifically the town, needs. And this is what I'm focused on. So that's what I'm looking to do for the next term. I'll hopefully have 2 years to do it. So I think that we'll be able to.
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to move the goalpost for sure. But that's what I'm hoping to do.
I remember very specifically, there were times that the county came to us and was like, this is what we're thinking about doing. And it was just shut down, right? Like there, as I said, there is a competency thing in this, right? Like, you have to be competent at the job, and you have to understand, right, that there's more than just the town. You're dealing with a business, and you're dealing with other businesses. You're dealing with the county. You're dealing with the state. You have all these things that, and what happened is that you had administrations in the past that were so small-minded, okay? And it was just about them. They made it all about them, okay, instead of the town. And it was really selfish. There was a lot of selfishness going on when I was there, and I saw it, and it was very real, and it's great to hear these things, because there's so much we could do here, not only in the town, but in the county. I've talked about economic development at the county for a long time and how there's been a lack, there's just been lost potential because
Yes.
two of the things that have really this county has struggled with is housing and transportation. Transportation is the key, right, to economic development, right? And you can't build the housing without the transportation piece, right? And what they were trying to do was fit square pegs into round holes and vice versa. And this is exactly the division that the county needs, that the town needs to move us into being an economic engine for the state. Because I really always believe that Orange County could be an economic engine for the state. I'm
Okay.
happy
So
to hear
hold
that.
on. I'm getting
Thank you.
Neil, check your mic. Neil is reverberating, so you must not be coming through. You sound fine here to me, but there might be something with
Sorry.
your mic. Okay.
There was
But we got a
little bit
couple
of an
more.
echo.
Got a couple of questions. First one, all from Tau SW. First asking here about people like to dance with animals. For the animal lovers, do you have animals? Oh, I think she was asking that to everybody in the group. Okay, never mind.
No, I think
But
she was asking that to Frank.
do
Oh,
you,
I am a huge animal fan. Oh, absolutely. I
he's a dog guy.
I have 3 dogs and a cat. And they're awesome and I love them dearly. And my house is never clean. And you know,
Tell me
they're
about it.
great. They're great. And I'm a horse person as well. So although I haven't been on a horse for quite some time now,
Me
but
too.
that's actually how I met Steve Newhouse. I actually worked for his mom for a little bit. So at the barn. So when I was a kid. So yeah, I am a big, huge animal person and really enjoy them. I think that I have yet to come across any kind of animal that in terms of pets that I have any issues with whatsoever.
Nice.
Yeah.
They have another question, what I think is interesting. So I see Jill putting out a platform that seems to claim she wants to do what you are already doing. What do you say about her using your accomplishments for her platform? Great question, by the way.
Good question.
It is. I would say that it's sad to me that someone has to copy what we're already doing. And I think that the community can see that for what it is. And, one thing I can tell you is that it's one thing to say that you can play professional football. It's another thing to watch Brett Favre get out on the field or, Tom Brady. And not that I consider myself a Brett Favre or Tom Brady, but I think I can hold my own. And, Favre. Yes, I am going to tell you that my loquaciousness, my elocution. There we go. My elocution is sometimes questionable. So I apologize for
Me
not
too.
saying the rain in Spain falls mainly upon the plain.
Kristen's at
Nice.
home right now, like cringing, listening to you.
There's no question.
Like
There's no
sitting on,
question.
she's like, oh, Frank, just shut up, stop, stop.
Listen, I might need a place to stay for a little while because I invoked Tom Brady's name and she is not a fan. So
No,
no.
that's okay.
Very funny.
But okay, I'm sorry. But go ahead, finish your thought. I just had to.
No, that was
say
it. That was it. Like I said, I think you need to be able to do the job. I'm going to tell you, I got this tossed back at me the other day. I think you should be able to do the job. This is a job interview. You want the best candidate for the job. And so you should look for the best candidate for the job. I have the skill set to be able to do the job. I've done the job. I'm doing the job right now. I've crammed a lot into 8 months. She can try to pretend
Absolutely.
that that's hers or that somehow it's not getting done. But the reality, as much as you say that the sky is purple with pink polka dots, it's not, it's blue. So, good luck. I think the world can see what's getting accomplished.
Yeah, that's it, and that's exactly it. Because it was funny because now their new slogan is Jill will fix it, but we're still kind of wondering what it is. Maybe she can clarify for us in that debate. I'm gonna if actually while we're talking here, I'll take a look and see if she's
I
actually
we
come out and said it.
we'll figure out if there's going to be a debate. We'll maybe she'll reach out to us and we'll see. Hopefully we can get this done. That would be very nice to see you two debate about the issues, and kind of go back and forth. I'm looking at the comments.
Oh my
Dude,
God.
you somebody's
Dude,
raging
yes, I
against
just
you.
caught the
You may have
Patriots.
lost
You
a
might as well
vote
be a Red Sox fan.
with this Tom
Okay.
Brady stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm in
Red
trouble, guys.
Sox.
I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I am not a Red Sox fan, nor have I ever been a Red Sox fan. I do like Big Papi, but I'm not a Red Sox fan. I will never, ever in a million years be a Red Sox fan ever. I
Yankees.
I sadly hang my head in shame to say that at one point in time, I did like Joe Belichick, and when he was, back in the day when the Patriots
When
were,
he was
before he was
when he was
into
a giant.
well, no, I not quite back that far, but before Deflategate for sure. But again, that's another instance where you're like, oh, this guy's got integrity. Oh, wait, no, he doesn't, because he cheat to win. And I'm certainly not about cheat to win. I'm like, you got to do the deed, and so that's I'm not.
I think
I'm not a Belichick fan,
I think part of
and I am not a Pats fan anymore. Go Big Blue.
Part of the thing with that you have to give Bill Belichick credit for, and we've talked about it on this show many times, is the idea that
I love that you've talked about it
everybody
on this
could-
show. See, I want to come on. I want to be on those shows.
we're talking about football.
We've talked about this, though, the idea of surrounding yourself with detail-oriented people. He's great at managing, but we've seen what happens when he let go of the detail-oriented people, right?
I think you're
when
right.
The detail-oriented people left, right? You saw how that he could no longer manage, right? You need to surround yourself with the right people, and that's what and Frank said it best. Frank really said it best when he said that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm going to tell you too, you also see in that analogy, you see the difference between, high performers like Tom Brady and Gronk go to different teams with different coaching mentalities and different philosophies and not succeed in the same way that they did when they were in underneath Belichick. So I think that the management style needs to work for the performers that are on the field. And I think that you've got to be able to approach your management style to be able to acknowledge that. Like, you got to be able to see the talent, you got to be able to nurture the talent, and you got to be able to get the talent the right kind of support. I don't see that coming from my opponent. I definitely didn't see that from the last administration. And I haven't seen it. And Neil was at the dais for longer than I was. I haven't seen that from the dais even prior to my arrival, even going all the way back to Ed Diana. I think that's just, there's been this idea that somehow you can just sit at the dais and the thing runs automatically on its own and you don't have to do any work, or you can cash in on, the fame and fortune that is sitting on the dais because, people will give you a free coffee, which, by the way, is illegal. So,
that was happening.
You got to be on your A game. And I come back to this idea that it is a job interview and you want the best person for the job. I don't see my opponent being the best person for this job.
Yeah. And by the way, Barry asked a question I posted before. I'll ask again. And he's asking, why won't Jill debate Mr. Supervisor? That, thanks for the question, Barry. That's a good one. We're wondering that, but it appears we're hearing from TOWSW that she has come forward, I guess maybe on her platform.
We'll
she'll debate now.
We'll come back to it, right? Like, let's confirm it and we'll come back to it. But I think, listen, it's, you gotta manage a team. And as Frank said, you're the coach and everybody else is running out to the field. And I can confirm that firsthand. I've seen it now in two different municipalities, and I've seen in other municipalities, I've seen it fail and I've seen it work. And, I've seen the town of Wallkill for many, many years, right? Like part of it is not only being able to direct people, but it's being able to accept the criticism and being able to learn, grow, and make things better, right? We have never seen that in the past, right? We have never seen that in the past. Before Frank, now Frank is, you can see he's telling you, he's saying, listen, I'm doing the Spill the Tea events. People are coming and they're saying, they're making complaints. We're being responsive to those complaints, right? We're addressing them. I'm on the dais. I'm answering questions on the dais. You could see him answering questions on the dais. The previous administrations, people would come and ask questions at a town meeting and they wouldn't even respond to them. They would say,
They'd
okay,
often
your
get
3 minutes
berated.
are up. And you would have to go back to your seat, or they would get yelled at and told to shut up, right? Or not to come. You know how many people came to me and said, well, I was told not to come and not to say anything, right? Like it was clearly that was their whole mentality. And now you have, Frank's opponent doing the same thing, right? She shuts down comments on her Facebook page. You don't shut down comments if you're willing to hear, right, what people have to say, and you want to be responsive. I just go back to, this is just going to take us backwards, and we just want to continue going forward. That's it.
I agree. And listen, it's a 24/7 job, and I'm a 24/7 guy. So it is not one of these things where you're only available in the morning or you're only available whenever. Like you're on when you're on, and you got, it's like being a firefighter. And this is a conversation around the car, and everyone's all concerned about the car. And I'm like, today was a great example about that. Being able to get to an emergency in town, because that's the job, is you got to be there. So you got to be attentive to those needs, and you got to be attentive to when it requires you to be in town hall early or late, or doing emails late or early, or in the middle of the day. I can't begin to tell you. Again, today I keep hearing, oh, I'm not available in the middle of the day. That's funny. I had four meetings today, and in between that was sandwiched with a fire. So you got to be there 24/7. It's a 24/7 position. It's not, there's no such thing as full-time or part-time. It is exactly that. And that goes to coaching too, right? Because when your team's not on the field, that's not the only time that they're your team. They're your team all the time. They're your team at 7:00 at night. They're your team at 5:00 in the morning when they're in the weight room. They're your team all the time. When they have a problem, you got to be able to step up to it. Like if somebody in town has an issue, they all they have to do is give me a call, and inside of 30 seconds I'm in a conversation and or routing resources. So it's not like pick or choose. It's all the time.
Right. And the Tao SW was asking is, I think Frank is addressing that right now. Your question regarding how he's handling all the responsibilities. He's addressing that right now. We live in a time, if COVID taught us anything, we went from working in offices to being, everything was remote, doing everything on the phone, Zoom meetings, interacting online, even, I don't know, faxing was still, people still doing that then, but everything became electronic and hands off. And we've learned to do that. And it's allowed for, if anything, it's created more work, right? We're now available 24/7 to our employers, or to, if you're
and
an elected
real.
representative.
I mean, let me ask this question, right? Because this is how absolutely absurd, right? I think, and disingenuous, right? Your opponent is being, right, with the whole like time. What if you said, you know what, we're going to replace, when Bill Gates was head of Microsoft, right? We're going to replace Bill Gates because he's not in the office every day watching over his staff, right? Or, we're going to replace Jeff Bezos because, he's not in the office every day, managing
He's on
his
his yacht.
staff, right? Like, I mean, you're managing an organization, and the organization is it's a living organization. It's a 24/7 job, just as you said, right? So it doesn't necessarily require your physical presence, right, throughout that process, right? There are plenty of towns that operate, okay, where the supervisor isn't there all day. In fact, if the town employees are doing their job appropriately, the town supervisor shouldn't necessarily be there all the time. You shouldn't be necessary for him to be there all the time, him or her, right?
Oh my goodness,
And
I
we see that with
agree.
our neighbor in Wayanda, who's not full time. You know,
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly here, because what you should be doing is you should be out cultivating relationships so that you can grow the town in an appropriate way. You should be out at building your relationships with the state and with the county. You should be out cultivating your relationships with both the economic driving force that is the county and that is the partnership, as well as the economic driving force at the state level and at the federal level, and understand how to speak that language. I agree. And not for nothing, the office is wherever you are in the moment, like wherever I happen to be. If somebody requires me to have a face-to-face, I'm there. If somebody requires me to just have a phone conversation because it's a quick, hey, I got 3 questions for you. As soon as you answer A, B, and C, I'm good. Then I'm on the phone. I'm Zoom meetings. I mean, like all of those things, it's wherever it happens to need to be. And that comes back to that 24/7 idea. And I'm going to just say, I was raised in the theater world. When you come in to the professional theater market as a young, fresh out of grad school, want to do your best job because, you only get work by word of mouth. You pick up the phone at 11 o'clock at night when you're the second associate and your designer needs you to pick up something from the store before you get to tech at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, you do that. You pick up the phone. You pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning because the director of OEM is calling you up, or the police chief is calling you up at 2 a.m. You pick up the phone. You don't pick up the phone at 6 or 7 o'clock when it just, you happen to wake up. And again, this is what it is. The job is wherever you are in the moment that it requires you. Full stop. That's it.
So we have a question. There apparently has been a rumor, and obviously this is related to contract negotiations, so I'm not sure you can
Right here.
address it, right? But there is a rumor going around that about our highway guys getting a certain percent raise next year, right? And that your opponent apparently opposes those type of raises, or maybe any raises for town employees. So would you like to address that rumor regarding the highway guys and raises? Or
I would
And I
be
want to
happy.
add to that. I want to add to that because one of their, because for a person who claims to not like AI, her entire campaign is all built in AI slop. One of those little AI slops that came out accused you of using that raise as a bribe for votes.
Yeah, well, first
So
of all,
here's that question again.
Let's start there. A lot of our DPW guys don't actually live in the town, so that doesn't apply. And again, this notion of double dipping doesn't apply because it's blatantly against the actual definition. So I don't know what to say. Like, again, we're calling a blue sky magenta with purple polka dots. So they can say what they want. What's buying votes? Buying votes is taking day-old Entenmann's down to the senior center day after day after day. That's buying votes. Telling
4 days expired.
Yeah.
My
Telling the
mother tell
DPW
me
guys that you're going to deal with their contract in a realistic way, and you're going to be mindful to the fact that the cost of living has doubled from where it was the last 5 years and when the CBA was up. That's just you being realistic to the economy and understanding what retention is. That's it. Full stop. So what does that mean? That means, Neil pointed it out, that the cost of living has gone up by 6%. That means that if we're interested in retaining our seasoned individuals, that we want them to continue to work for the town of Wallkill and not go to work for Goshen or City of Newburgh or City of Middletown. That means that we have to be competitive. That means we have to be responsive to the fact that the cost of living is going up. So if I give them a 2% raise, they've actually lost money. They're not making money. This is me speaking as a union guy. I'm going to tell you that in a 5-year contract. That doesn't mean that next year they get 6%, but will they get 6% over 5 years? Yeah, probably. I absolutely think that they should have a cost of living increase that is commensurate with what the actual cost of living is. That goes for PD too. We're about to do the PD contract. There's no world where anybody can go look back and say, I got a 4% raise, I'm rich.
Yeah.
In fact, anybody,
Yeah.
like, so if you got a 4% raise, you actually owe yourself 2% just to get over your grocery bill. That's the reality. So,
Just
Yeah.
you know,
just remember on some of those contracts, just in case you don't remember from back in the day, some of those contracts do actually have a CPI in them.
yes, no, that's absolutely true. They do.
Yeah.
They do. So we have to be be smart.
Sometimes it's CPI plus, right? Then you're giving them CPI plus. So just want to make sure that the public understands that from that. And this is a detail that you have to understand and know, right, in the contracts, right? That there is a CPI piece and that there are multiple components, that you're just not looking at one percentage number or
That's
one
correct.
number.
And you have to amortize that out over 5 years because the CBAs are 5 years old. So, and not for nothing, if you go back and look at the last 2 CBAs, both for DPW and PBA, you're going to see a maximum increase that caps at 4%. Again, the cost of living this year, last year, towards the end of last year, last 6 months of last year, 6%. So immediately they're making 2% less than what it's going to cost them to buy bread and eggs. Now, I ask you, would you stay in a job that only gave you a raise that put you 2% underneath water? And my feeling on the matter is that the answer is not likely. And so if we want a retention strategy that keeps our, institutional knowledge at the town of Wallkill, then we have to be mindful of that. And we have to make sure that these individuals are getting paid appropriately. But, the flip side to that too is we've got to be mindful of how we break down overtime. We've got to be mindful of how we break down double time. We've got to be mindful about, what comp time looks like in the town. And all of these things have got to be taken into consideration moving forward while we discuss CBAs for PBA and for DPW. At the end of the day, this is a 50,000-foot question that requires 10,000-foot details in how do you build a contract that doesn't break the bank, but allows the rank and file to feel like you're being supportive.
Yeah. There you go. Hopefully that addresses your questions. And I'm sorry that the Tao says she hasn't gotten, or she or he, I'm sorry, I don't know, male or female. Sorry, my eyes are terrible. The picture is just not helping. It's so teeny tiny.
We can't elaborate on Jill's positions because she has never articulated them to us or anybody that we know. So we can't do that. And we're almost at 2 hours now. And I think
this happens all the time with me. I'm sorry, guys.
I think Frank needs to get some sleep. All right, let's let Frank.
I got
Frank
emails
has had a long day.
Ooh, I got some emails.
Frank has had a long day. So how about we let Frank get some sleep, and we let everybody go for the evening, and we can round up again. If Frank wants to join us in the future, more than welcome now. We love it.
Yeah. Let us know if you want to have him back. We're always happy to have Frank on, for just to keep you up to date on what's going on with the town.
Guys, thanks so much for having me on. I'll let you wrap it up. I got to go. I'm doing emails right now after I get off of this. I'm going to have some conversations about talking to the DA here tomorrow. So, yeah. So there's some late night thinking for you. That'll keep you up. Anyways, thank you again for having me out. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here anytime. You just say the word. And listen, if you want to talk sports, I'll bring my wife on. She's a superstar there. So, and I promise
we got to do that.
I promise I won't talk about the Patriots, and I won't talk about the Red Sox. And go Yankees, go Giants,
Yankees,
go Yankees.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. All right,
thanks, Frank. Have a good one.
Take care. All right, guys. So yeah, that was great. That worked out really nice. I was glad he was able to pop in and join us. Wish the feed was a little bit stronger, but for those of you that are
That
still
was a little
here,
bit more than a pop in, but yes,
yeah, that
we're
was a
very
little more
happy
than
to
a
have
pop
him
in.
on. Yeah.
But no, I think it's good because it's we addressed a lot of important issues and a lot of questions. I hope we were able to get some of your questions answered. What I will do is I will turn this recording into an upload. Obviously, I'll leave the live version there, but since he had such a drag on his feed, the recorded one will be much better and he'll be clearer and come across better. So look for that if you need to, and especially if you joined us late and didn't get to see the entire conversation, it will be up on our on the TOWTalk podcast YouTube page. Okay, guys. With that, I think Neil needs to walk the dog. Right? Is it time? Neil's got to walk the dog. But
Dog is pacing outside the room I'm in. Like literally, dog is pacing outside my room.
Dog is pacing. So we gotta let Neil walk the dog, and we're gonna wind up here. Listen, folks, thanks so much for sticking with us the whole time, because this was another marathon episode that went a whole lot longer than we expected, and most of you have been consistently here start to finish. So thanks so much for joining us. And obviously, we will be back again next Tuesday. And keep watching the channel as we upload more stuff. I also uploaded some information to our sister channel, The Daily Gripe. Going to be adding more and more as we go on there. So please make sure you follow that and watch for things going on there. If you're not already subscribed to TOWTalk here and following all our socials, please do that. It goes a long way to helping us grow this channel and getting our message out to you. Without any further delay, we're going to cut it here. We're going to say goodnight here and wish you guys be well, be safe. We love you, and we will see you soon. Take care, guys.
Peace out.